Quite cool. What? I just dropped it. Oh god. It's such a mouthful, like Tokyo powder liquid chalk. Or is it Tokyo liquid chalk? Because then it would be from the place Tokyo, not the brand Tokyo powder. So then it's Tokyo powdered liquid chalk versus Tokyo powdered chalk. Hello wonderful humans, it's Grace back again with another video, and this week we are talking all things Tokyo powdered liquid chalk. I know, it's crazy. I didn't even know that they had liquid chalk, but here we are. Last year, I was sent some Tokyo powdered liquid chalk from our friends at Rocktick Climbing, and this is what they look like. One being the garage version, which looks like this. This is for people with normal skin and don't need super friction and not too sweaty. And this one is called High Garage, which is the more intense version and for people who have a little more sweatier skin type. So I tested these two liquid chalks on days that were really hot because personally my fingers don't get too sweaty when I climb, especially when the conditions are right. But luckily for the purpose of this experiment and testing, there have been a fair share of days where it's been extremely sweaty, humid in Australia, and I've gone to the gym because your girl needs to climb. So I'm gonna do that, but also suffer, but also test out whether the liquid chalk actually works or not. The first part of this video consists of a field test from my backyard where I compared the texture, how long it took to dry, and its staying power. In terms of texture, the normal garage feels a little bit gloopy, just like normal liquid chalk. You have to be careful when taking it out of the bottle as the liquid is very fluid and can easily spill out more than you'd like it to. The High Garage, however, was a different story. It has more of a creamy consistency and it has more weight to it. So it feels more like a heavy duty moisturizer when you put it on your hands, and you sort of have to rub it in because it doesn't have as much liquid content. The time it took for the normal Garage to dry was surprisingly almost 2 minutes. On the other hand though, the High Garage took just over a minute to dry. Both chalks take way longer than normal liquid chalk to dry, which can be concerning. Lastly, I tested the longevity and staying power. They both had very good staying power when you first put it on. And I tested this by repeatedly slapping my hands together and putting them on different surfaces to make sure that the chalk would come off. The normal Garage was quite patchy after a few slaps, and that is to be expected because that is what normal chalk does. However, the exciting thing was that the High Garage, not only did it spread more evenly than the normal Garage, it also maintained its staying power. So I was slapping a few times and doing all that stuff to test whether it would come off my hands, and it remained pretty good for a while before it started patching off. So that's definitely a positive. So after the home experiments were done, I knew I had to go and test it out in the real world. I went to the climbing gyms, and as I mentioned previously, I don't usually need a lot of chalk when the conditions are good. So when I tried it on, I could only see its negative impacts, which was that it took a really long time to dry. And that was really frustrating for me initially because I didn't want to have to wait so long given that I tested other types of liquid chalk and they took under 30 seconds to fully dry. And honestly, I wasn't a big fan of the scent either. It has more of a chlorine-like scent, which I'm not a big fan of, so it really wasn't winning too much for me at this stage. However, there is positive news for the Tokyo powdered liquid chalk. It's actually quite good for sweaty hands. The reason I say this is because I actually went climbing on a really hot afternoon once. It was like 29 degrees. It was so hot. Every part of me was sticky with sweat. It was just not a good sight. I was trying this climb, which was slightly inclined, and it involved a lot of pinches. It was something that I had previously done and I had no problems doing it then. However, in this particular afternoon, I was trying it again and I just couldn't stick any part of it. I just kept falling off. I was using the one that they provided at the gym and it was just not doing anything for me. Every time I got on, I would come right off and then all the chalk would just fall off my hands. And so I thought, okay, it's time to try out the Tokyo powder. So I tried it out and I didn't really think too much of it. Honestly, I was just like, yeah, whatever, it's just another type of chalk. When I put the chalk on, the attempt that I had straight after that, I actually sent. And I was so shocked. I was like, what? I didn't know this was good. And I honestly can't attribute my send and my success to Tokyo powder in that instance because it really stuck to my really sweaty fingers and it gave me grip. Because it took so long for the liquid chalk to dry, I actually had to wait and actually rest. So it's actually a positive that it takes a bit of time to dry in that scenario. After that, I was able to send so many other slabs that I had been working on. I was like, woohoo! I made a little infographic to help summarize my findings from trying out some Tokyo powdered liquid chalk, and I'll quickly go through this. I would personally buy this chalk again if my hands are always sweaty and other chalk doesn't cut it. For me personally, I don't have this problem. The chalk at the gym is totally fine for me. I would only reuse Tokyo powdered liquid chalk again if it was a really sweaty day, because I know that definitely works. However, if that's not the case for you, then I would consider trying out Tokyo powder, because it really does a good job of sticking itself to sweaty skin, and it does it pretty well, to the point that after I finished my sessions I had to wash my hands 4 times for the chalk to fully come out. Number 2 would be that you don't mind resting while waiting for the chalk to dry. This is something that really bothered me because I'm quite impatient, but normally I want my chalk to dry quickly so I can climb. However, there is no problem with resting, and I would encourage you to rest in between climbing. That's something that I also need to work on, but if you don't mind that and you have sweaty fingers, then it might just be worth it. And finally, if price, texture, and scent doesn't matter to you, you're just concerned about getting your chalk to stick, and then you should definitely give this a try. I've listed down here that both the chalks cost around $10 to $12 for around 50 grams, which is not a lot. It kind of seems to be in the middle to high price range when I had a look in my research to do this video. It also smells a little bit like chlorine to me, and that's something that I personally don't like, but it doesn't really smell that alcoholic, which is good, I suppose. And in terms of texture, as I said before, the normal Garage is fluid and liquid-like. The packaging is a bit funny, so it can just spill out. And the High Garage is definitely more creamy, more solid, something that I would prefer a little more, just because when you put it on your fingers, it's more like just, it's staying on your hands. So hopefully this little infographic helped, and yeah. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. Anyways, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! It's just the drum blows, yeah. Walk around like who you, yeah. Just something you get used to.